Good day, Chief here. I'm going to talk about some horror stories today. Not necessarily spooky stuff or frightening stuff. Well, some of it could be frightening, but just stories of some of the crazy events that happened at the various posts that I served throughout my military career. I remember my soldiers would complain when we would annotate and write and record all these strange events, and then of course the public outrage sometimes of, the military. Oh, you guys are nothing but a bunch of sadistic psychopaths. And I would tell my soldiers, I said, since we record everything, we tried to cover almost 100% of everything that does happen. I mean, there's some things that happen that we don't get to report because they are hidden from us, just like in American society. So therefore I said we're a microcosm of the macrocosm because we record everything, because we have to. We are required to. So let's get on to a couple of these stories. I'm not going to mention the posts because that would be not right. We had mess halls sometimes have competitions between themselves. I don't know if that still goes on. It's been a long time since I've heard about mess halls being in a competition for a prize. It depends on how many mess halls there are on an establishment. Well, this one mess hall was being run very effectively by I think it was a sergeant first class. So for like 2 or 3 years in a row, he was getting top reports. He was winning the competition and everything else because this place was immaculate, well run, clean. I mean, just what you would expect out of a very effective run machine, so to speak. I don't know what caused his command to do either a courtesy call or a health and welfare, because he lived on base. And when they got to his house, they found out why he was so effective at work. At work, he wore the pants. At home, he did not. His wife ran the home. I'm not going to go into particulars, but you can just say his wife was the opposite of him. In other words, there was soiled bedding, messes by children that weren't cleaned up. And I'm talking about bodily messes. And his house just looked like a pigsty, more or less. And I don't know what happened. Probably got kicked off post because there are standards to be met, and obviously his wife did not know how to meet the standards, but it gave them insight as to why he was so effective at work, because like I said, he did not get to wear the pants at home. Also at this same post, now when you get on post housing, the size or the number of bedrooms that you receive for your on-post housing is determined by the number of children you have. So there was this couple who got a very large place, so to speak. Now the neighbors were like, that's odd. We could have sworn that when they moved in, they had children. But they never saw children. I don't know how long it went, a couple months, maybe half a year before someone finally acted on it, because people were questioning, you have a couple living in a house that is set for a large family, and yet we never see children come or go in that house. So probably with the command, along with probably the military police, decided that since they've gotten some reports by saying, we don't see children, basically. But they're living in a place that should have children, and more than one or two. So again, when they did a health and welfare check on the couple, they found, sitting in one room, 5 car seats in a row. And inside those car seats were 5 children strapped into these car seats. And I think one of them was old enough to be in grade school. So we're looking at maybe a child that's probably 6, 7, or possibly 8 and was not going to school. They were strapped in these car seats, from what we were told, all day long. I would not want to be sitting on that board to probably chapter that individual out of the Army for cruel and unusual punishment to children. Didn't some of these cases, yeah, I got them through the rumor mill, but they happen. Getting back to what my soldiers have said about why are we always being picked on when we do our reports. Well, according to the Army Code of Military Justice, and in our courts, there's not very many adultery cases because they just don't go off a hearsay, as it is called. In other words, saying, I know they're sleeping around with married men or unmarried women or married women, and he's married, she's married, whatever. The military has it set up, we have to have physical evidence. Be it 1 or 2 individuals actually walking in on the couple, engaged in the act, videotape, or a recording, maybe with voices and names being mentioned. Now, the only case that I actually heard of adultery happened when the husband, along with a neighbor, walked in on his best friend and his wife. But that caused a big stinkeroo at this place, and I don't know what the end result of that situation was, but that one I did experience personally because I knew the couple. Now, getting to that, saying the video evidence, now this one, quite obviously, I went to the Gulf War, and while we were doing the whole week of fighting, so to speak, one of our motor pool personnel received a videotape, supposedly of was his wife, saw that it was his wife, but with a headless figure making love to her. If you're going to make a tape, it is very wise to either A, cover up your tattoos, or not have tattoos in the first place. Because when this soldier showed the videotape to his higher authorities, they all looked at it and said, "That's your tattoo." Pulled up his arm, tattoo. Turns out he didn't want to be there, so he came up with this plan that he and his wife would make a videotape where she is being made love to and her confessing to the camera, "See what you're missing out on, honey?" So they got caught. Now, speaking of our motor pool, another little horror story is the motor pool NCOIC was old enough to have children, grown children, and one of his daughters married one of the soldiers that worked in the motor pool with him. Well, like I said, we went to the Gulf War. I was only gone about 90 days. I think the rest of the command was gone about another altogether, I think like 150 days before they got back. I don't remember exactly because we came back as units. And so the father of the daughter, so the motor sergeant NCOIC told his son-in-law, who was of course serving with him over in the Gulf War, "Don't worry, I will take care of this situation when we get home." The new bride did not write a single letter to her husband. He was writing constantly. We got the call home on occasion. They set up phones for us and we were able to call phone. This is before cell phones, so talking about landlines, so it's not like she's got a phone in the car, but she was never available when he called. And didn't hear the follow-up except for that the father would handle his daughter and saying, "Why didn't you write your husband while he was away at war?" I mean, kind of comical and kind of tragic at the same time. But to have a father step in and tell the soldier, "Oh, I'll handle this one. Remember, she was my daughter first." And also with the Gulf War associated. Like I said, I got home early, so therefore I got stuck on a detail where I would go down to the hangars where the troops would come back for a brief little welcome home ceremony. And so I got to go down when my battalion arrived. And one of the warrant officers that I worked with briefly over there, I think he was a CW3 if I'm not mistaken, so he was pretty long in his warrant officer career. Well, he had all his gear on, and he had his briefcase and a couple other, and of course his duffel bags, and he was just standing there. And I walked by. At this time I was only a sergeant, so he's like, "Sergeant, have you seen my wife?" I said, "Sir, I don't know what your wife looked like because I have never met her." Come to find out, his wife was Korean. So when he shipped over to the Gulf, I'm watching my cat, shipped over to the Gulf for the Gulf War, she sold all the furniture, sold everything she could take, excuse me, cleaned out the bank account, and took the two kids back to Korea. So I don't know if he ever got his kids back or ever saw them again or ever hooked up with her. It really doesn't matter. I'm looking at my time. I'm talking a little bit longer today because I'm concentrating on thinking what I'm supposed to talk about. So I've already seen that we're up to 13 minutes. So there's some brief horror stories. I've got more, but those are the ones that really stuck out. And those were actually early in my career. Now I have a lot of stories related to death. Might make a separate video, I don't know. Because I did, throughout my career, experience some death besides knowing the soldier that got killed in the Gulf War. So this Chief out. Remember, freedom's not free. I don't know what to think anymore about the war overseas. I want it to be over with because I need to contact somebody. I haven't heard from her in a long time. So this is Chief out. Freedom's not free.